The following is a special presentation of Conifer Radio, our continuing series of Conifer Podcast. Conifer Podcast presents the true life stories of our Conifer, Bailey, and U.S. Highway 285 corridor residents, their remarkable contributions to our community, and their encouragement to us all. We continue this week with Miss Ina Marlowe and Mr. Bill Bruner of the Bailey Theater Company with part 2 of a two-part podcast. Part 1 was recorded and live streamed on Wednesday, June 30th of 2021 and is available via www.mymountaintown.com. Conifer Radio recognizes Bill and Ina for their work to build and sustain the Bailey Theater Company, not only through the unprecedented year of 2020, but now continuing into year 2021. They bring a professional live theater experience to Bailey and our Platte Canyon area. Good evening, Conifer Radio listeners. We are here once again in live mobile studio with Miss Ina Marlowe and Mr. Bill Bruner of the Bailey Theater Company. Again, Ina comes to our mountain community with an incredible background in theater, and as most of you know, Mr. Bill, he is well known to many of us and has been the driving force in the creation of the Bailey Theater. We're presenting part 2 of this podcast and follow up to our earlier presentation that was live streamed on Wednesday, June 30th. Part 1 is available on www.mymountaintown.com for those of you who would like to hear how we started our conversation. Ina, Bill, welcome once again to Conifer Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, let's continue with our conversation from a couple of weeks ago. And I think you have an exclusive announcement for our listeners. And what would that be?
I do, Mark. So we're going to announce this at our fundraiser on the 24th of July, but your listeners will get an inside track to it. We have our next reading scheduled. It'll be October 16th at 6:30 at Glen Isle. We did a reading there last fall, and they graciously are allowing us to come back. The play will be A Life in the Theater by David Mamet, and yours truly will be one of the leads.
Oh, the golden throat of Bailey, Colorado.
15 years since I've been on stage, so I'm just going to have to shake my tree a little bit, but it'll be interesting. And I know that a lot of people, since I've been talking about this theater, have been wanting to see me back on stage. So I think this will be a wonderful opportunity. It's a wonderful play, and I'll let Ina speak to the artistic value of the play that I think will fit in very well with what we're doing.
I was looking for a play that I thought would be just right for Bill, because I think that a lot of people want to see him and want to see what he does as an actor, maybe one show a year, just so that they see that we're really serious about all of this. This play is about an older actor and mentoring a younger actor, and all of the different scenes that they're involved with off stage and on stage. It will be a reading, and in the way that we're adding things for every show, we're going to be adding costume pieces, a few costume pieces, as opposed to just design for this next show in October. We're really looking forward to it. The young man who's going to be opposite Bill had a lead in one of my shows, and I think Bill is just perfect for this part.
Well, speaking of the other actor, are you prepared to release that name now, or is that going to be a surprise?
I certainly could. His name is Stephan Beal, and he had the lead when he was at Metro in my production of Machinal.
Have you set the cast for A Life in the Theater?
It's a 2-person play, so it's Stephan Beal and it is Mr. Bill Bruner. It is 2 people, an older actor mentoring a younger actor, and how they relate backstage and on stage.
Now, something that's near and dear to many of us who know Bill Bruner, we very rarely see him without a baseball hat on. Are you going to be allowing him a baseball hat, or Ina? Do we get to see Bill topless?
I think that he could definitely wear a baseball hat during the offstage scenes. I don't think that there are any scenes that basically what's happening in this play is the audience sees the characters from their back as if they were backstage while the characters are performing on stage. And then you see them in their dressing room preparing for the show. And so you see a number of different scenes of these two men putting their makeup on, helping each other with their costumes, things like that. Then you see them doing whatever scene it is.
Well, Bill, when do tickets go on sale for this
in
next
front
event?
of a pretending audience.
We'll probably have tickets on sale starting in August. Easiest way to keep track of us is to go to our Facebook page, which is BTC Bailey. There you can get all the latest information on stuff. But usually once we tie up one fundraiser, we go immediately into the next one. So we will also be looking for sponsors for the next production. One of the things that we've done from the very beginning is that we've raised enough money so that every production is paid for entirely by sponsorship dollars.
It's quite an accomplishment. Do they get a hold of you then the same way?
Yes, so they can do the Facebook page, or they can give me a call at 720-463-1023.
And Connor, for podcast listeners, we are here live in mobile studio with Mr. Bill Bruner and Ina Marlowe, our directorial complement to the Bailey Theater Company. So let's talk about the Glen Isle event. And after the event, what's next for the theater? What's coming up?
Well, we have plans that depend on a lot of things. So, like anything, when you're first starting, there's a lot of balls in the air. But we've been working with Park County. We've been working with several other resources. And we think there's a very strong possibility that in the late spring of 2022, that we will be able to do a full production someplace.
Well, Ina, that's got to be exciting.
Yes, I'm actually quite excited about it. And that's why at this point, I've been doing all of this work with designers, because I feel like the next step after the show that Bill's in, A Life in the Theater, which I think is really appropriately named, we will be doing 3 show seasons and then probably up to 4 show seasons. I want the audience to be excited about that. I've been reading scripts already and have a pretty good idea of the direction that we're going. I'm looking at comedies, I'm looking at serious plays. All of the plays that I'm looking at are really quite wonderful. The comedies are very funny and the serious plays have humor in them. I'm also working with new playwrights. As a matter of fact, later on today, I'll be meeting with a playwright whose play I just heard read and who I've been working with on development of this play for a number of months. So we'll see if something like that a new play will be able to be brought to Bailey Theater Company. It certainly is something in the future that I hope to be able to do, as well as Pulitzer and Tony Award-winning plays and other wonderful pieces.
So Mark, the current plan is that if things go the way that we think they're going to go, that we would have a production sometime probably mid to late May, another one in July, and then another one in September. So we would do 3 full productions next year if things work out the way we think they're going to work out. As far as a long-term vision for the theater, we are hoping in the next 3 to 5 years that we can raise enough money to actually build a theater in Bailey. It would be a wonderful accomplishment for the community because we would also allow the community to use it when we're not using it. And in the front lobby of the theater, we would invite local artists to display their works so that we would have a true connection to the arts community throughout Park County and the Bailey community.
Well, if someone would like to get involved with the theater specifically here from our local 285 quarter, how would they go about doing that?
So we're always looking for volunteers. With these readings, we don't need as many as you would normally need for a full production, but we still need people to check people in. We still need people to help out with the actors and with setting up sets and setting up sound equipment. We're always open to anybody that's interested in volunteering. And when we get to full productions, we'll need a lot because we'll need ushers and stage crew and things like that. As with everything else, our Facebook page, there's a message place on there. You can message me and I'll be glad to reach out to you, or you can give me a call. The number again is 720-463-1023.
I think that what we're looking for as well, because a lot of the backstage volunteer things are not as much what I think the community is going to be wanting to do. I think what we're looking for are ambassadors, friends, people to host parties and bring those parties to the theater, people who want to have actors or Bill and me to their houses to talk to their friends about building the theater, people who really want to make a change and an impact. Let's say someone who is very close to you loved the theater. You want to name a theater after that person. All of this is possible. All of this, I think, is likely. So please get in touch with Bill if you have anything like that you're interested in giving us, in helping us.
Ina, you just mentioned a key entry point into the theater operation, and that is becoming an ambassador. And like many organizations, ambassadors are the prime developmental ground for future board members. So like most nonprofits, I'm sure you're always looking for board members. If someone is interested in an ambassadorial or a board member position, maybe Bill, how should they contact you folks?
As far as board positions, yes, like any new nonprofit, we certainly are looking for people to fill out the board. You know, our expectations of board members are that they're going to bring something to the table that's going to help us grow the theater. They can easily email me their resume and their interest, btcmanagingdirector@gmail.com. That's BTC as in Bailey Theater Company, managing director @gmail.com. I'll be happy to reach out and talk to them. You know, there's a process with the people that we already have on the board. They'll have to be approved and everything like that. But, you know, we're a young organization, so we really are looking for people that are excited about the possibility of professional theater in Bailey and want to get involved and can bring some expertise to the board that we don't have and help move the theater on to the next stage.
No pun intended, right, Bill? Hey, I'd like to take a moment here and recognize Ina. For those of you who hadn't heard our first podcast, we have a real treasure here in our 285 corridor, and that's Ina Marlowe. Ina, just for a few minutes here, tell us once again how you came to Bailey and where you came from and the theater experiences and the special things about your background.
Hi. Well, if you want to look up all the details, I'm on the internet as far as my website, inamarlowe.com. But I've been doing theater my entire life. I think I fell in love with it when I was about 11. All through high school, as I'm sure that some of the people listening to this, I did everything, and I was able to be a Northwestern Cherub, which is like their program, and University of Illinois. I went there. I have my BFA in acting from Goodman School in Chicago and my MFA in directing from the same place. I started Touchstone Theater in 1984, I believe, and it got bigger and bigger, and it became a mid-sized theater in Chicago. We ended up in the same space that the Steppenwolf used to be in on Halstead Street. And we were there for about 20 years. The company was there for about 20 years. Our family moved to Colorado about 10 years ago because I wanted to be closer to my son who had taken a job here and his wife and new granddaughter. So I spent about 5 years doing that and really just loving being here in Conifer and being with family. Then I directed at Denver Center, directed Glass Menagerie. And after that, I was the Roe Green recipient at University of Colorado, directed Dollhouse there, directed and taught at DU, and directed at Metro. And then I was just sort of taking a break, and Bill and I started talking. And as Bill said, he did drag me kicking and screaming. It's true.
You both have really key skill sets that mesh well together, with Bill as a managing director and you as the artistic director. And Bill, tell our listeners why that's been such a great score for the both of you.
Well, in the theater, it's a very rare thing to have two people that work well together that have totally different skill sets. Ina, when she was doing the Touchstone, did everything, and that kind of burned her out to some extent.
Yes. And it
I
also made me appreciate very, very much Bill, because I know how hard it is what he's doing.
I actually acted for quite a long time, about 15 years professionally. And in those days, I don't think I could have run a theater because I was too concerned about acting. I found that with 23 years in accounting and finance, including 9 years at Ernst & Young, one of the biggest accounting firms in the world, that being able to raise money, being able to keep the books clean, and being able to understand the managing side of a theater is as important as the artistic side of the theater.
It's like you can't build a bridge without the structure. It's the structure. And the reason that I am so pro Bill is he has created a structure that artists can play in. And we can't do our work unless we have the structure. And I think that because I had to do it for so long, I am more than aware of what he did and what he is doing and how hard it is. So I think it's helpful that he's had experience on my end and I've had experience on his end, and neither one of us wants to do the other one's job.
Sounds very logical, very, very logical. This has been very enlightening, and we really appreciate your time today. And on behalf of Conifer Bailey and our US 285 corridor, we are here to recognize Ina and Bill of the Bailey Theater Company for your work on our new nonprofit professional theater in Bailey, Colorado. And as we wish you all the best with your continuing development of the theater, Bill and Ina, how can our listeners best get in touch with you?
So I think we've said it a few times, but it's always worth reiterating. I know when I've always listened to podcasts, video, even TV, that you hear something and you realize you don't have a pen and pencil available, or you don't have a way to write something down. Remember, you can use your phone notepad if you don't have anything else. There's several ways to get a hold of us. So the Facebook page is constantly monitored, and that's facebook.com/BTC Bailey. We put all the updates on there as to what's going on. We thank our sponsors profusely every time that we post something on there. And so you can see the growth of the theater and the way things have changed just over the last year, even with the pandemic going on. Then you can reach me at btcmanagingdirector@gmail.com, or you can give me a call at 720-463-1023. I suppose I should caution people, that's my business line. I do own a travel agency in town, so don't be shocked when I answer saying that it's Cruise Planners Heart and Soul Excursions. You've still got the right place.
On Conifer Podcast, we allow for shameless promotions of one's other livelihood, and Bill does a great job, folks. For those of you who are looking to get to travel once again, please consider Bill again as a good resource. And we are really looking forward to seeing you live on stage, Bill. So, Ina, thank you very much for doing such a good job with Mr. Bill. We've seen Bill blossom over the past couple of years here at Conifer Radio, and he actually represents one of our golden throats on the air. So thank you for that too, Bill.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Well, on behalf of our Conifer Radio listeners, this has been Conifer Podcast with Ina Marlowe and Bill Bruner of the Bailey Theater Company. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.